The movie begins in Seoul, South Korea. Jang Pan-soo is a 40-year-old businessman and a highly respected gang leader, having a cold, loveless life with his wife Han Soo-yoon. Their marriage is built on strengthening business ties with his boss and father-in-law Mr. Han, the CEO of Han-ho Partner Group. Pan-soo's gearing up for another day of mobster CEO duties when Soo-yoon, her father's overly pampered princess, begins to grumble.
아빠가 청담동 갤러리나 못 주시겠대? 짜증나.
Pan-soo, indifferent to her grievance, simply shrugs it off and carries on with his day. At the office, his assistant Choi tells him about the Jungwon District Mall project. They plan to flatten some of Pan-soo's properties to make space for it. However, one problem stands in the way: a small carpentry shop that refuses to move. The owner has decided to exercise his right to retention. Pan-soo tightens Choi's tie and follows it up with a classic shoulder smack, which is his favorite signature move. He reminds Choi that they can't forget the gangster way of handling things. Then he calls in his faithful lackey Mr. Bong and tells him to take care of the situation. Mr. Bong marches into the woodworking shop with his army of stick-wielding men.
오늘은 깔끔하게 찍고 밥자리 하러 갑시다.
The owner Kim Jong-gi initially puts up some resistance. The scene shifts to show the woodworkers bruised and battered. Mr. Kim hasn't been spared either. He finds his hand under a circular saw with Mr. Bong threatening to cut it off if he doesn't sign the papers. With no other choice, Mr. Kim eventually presses his fingerprint onto the documents. Later that night, Pan-soo is eating alone by himself when Mr. Yang makes an entrance. He used to work under Pan-soo's thumb, but now a self-proclaimed business competitor, he's eagerly counting down the days until he can shove Pan-soo out of the picture entirely. With a smirk as sharp as his words, Pan-soo belittles him by casually bringing up their shared
내
past.
구두 한 짝도 제대로 못 닦던 놈이.
The next day, after finally completing a mall project he had been working on, Pan-soo decides it's time to receive grace. He makes his way to an old ramen shop that used to be one of his favorite places. When his order arrives, he asks the elderly shop owner about the woman who used to run the place years ago. The owner calmly replies that she has passed away. Pan-soo slurps some of the mackerel ramen he ordered, but the taste isn't what he remembers. Disappointed, he spits it back into the bowl and calls for the check. Alongside him, a nerdy high school student named Dong-hyun is wolfing down his ramen like it's his last meal. When he goes to pay, he suddenly realizes he has forgotten his wallet. Flustered, he explains the situation to the shop owner. Surprisingly, the old woman doesn't seem upset. With a warm smile, she tells Dong-hyun he can leave because Pan-soo will cover his bill. Caught off guard, Pan-soo reluctantly agrees, though he's not thrilled about paying for the boy who has polished off 4 bowls of ramen. Before he leaves, the shop owner promises him a special gift in return for his kindness, giving him a look that's equal parts unsettling and cryptic. In the following scene, Pan-soo finds himself trapped in traffic behind a slow-moving garbage truck. Frustrated, he steps out of his coupe to light a cigarette. Meanwhile, just above him, Dong-hyun is precariously standing on the edge of a 2-story building, trying to retrieve a shoe stuck on a pole. But just as he reaches for it, he loses his balance and down he goes. His massive frame descends like a meteor, and the unfortunate landing pad is none other than Mr. Jong. When Pan-soo opens his eyes, he's sprawled on a hospital bed. Confused and disoriented, he forces himself to get up and step outside, only to realize that everyone around him is treating him like a teenager. The next thing he sees is his own body lying comatose on another hospital bed. Before Pan-soo can make sense of the situation, the carpenter he had threatened the day before rushes toward him. To Pan-soo's surprise, Mr. Kim calls him son. His confusion turns into terror when he looks into the mirror, realizing that he's somehow body-swapped with the kid who landed on him. Meanwhile, Mr. Kim notices that his son's behavior has become aggressive. The boy doesn't recognize him, and the way he talks has completely changed. A doctor explains that Dong-hyun, the boy Pan-soo is now inhabiting, has suffered a brain injury that erased all of his memories. As Pan-soo struggles to adjust to his newfound reality of wearing glasses and hauling around an impressive amount of fat, he remembers the diner owner's cryptic words about giving him a gift. He rushes back to meet her, but the diner has vanished into thin air. A nearby shopkeeper tells him that the place shut down a long time ago. Meanwhile, Pan-soo's business rival Mr. Yang is positively ecstatic upon hearing that the man is in a coma. Pan-soo returns home in Dong-hyun's body and finds his wife crying. Overwhelmed at first, he soon realizes that her tears are for a broken necklace. Before Pan-soo can revel in this touching domestic moment, she mistakes him for a burglar. Despite his efforts to explain the whole "I'm in someone else's body" situation, Soo-yoon calls security and they kick him out of the house. He ends up at the police station. Dong-hyun's father explains that his son is dealing with brain damage, which helps defuse the situation. The officers let him go without much trouble since he's legally a minor. Determined to fix things, Pan-soo goes to the hospital and tries his own strange method to reverse the body swap. The site is wildly open to interpretation, and none of the interpretations are good. Just then, his right-hand man, Mr. Bong, walks in. When he realizes the kid is the one who crushed his boss, he kicks him out and warns that he'll barbecue him if he ever returns. Pan-soo moves Dong-hyun's body to the home of Mr. Kim, the very man he made jobless. He prepares a mountain of junk food, saying it's what Dong-hyun typically eats. At first, Pan-soo insists he doesn't touch fast food. Fast forward a few seconds and every plate is wiped clean. Turns out while Pan-soo's mind might be in the driver's seat, his body, the ravenous teenage vacuum that is Dong-hyun, is calling the shots when it comes to food. The following day, Kim Jong-gi heads to his son's school to meet the principal. Pan-soo, in a school uniform, strolls around confidently as if he owns the place. Jong-gi believes that his son wasn't trying to take his own life, but was forced to walk along the building's edge by bullies. However, when he confronts the principal, the man flat out denies everything, insisting that nothing like that happens at his school. Sensing that something isn't right, Pan-soo dismisses Mr. Kim like a boss, declaring he'll handle it himself. Pan-soo walks into the classroom and a group of boys greets him with a mocking middle finger salute. From their reactions, he quickly realizes that Dong-hyun was a quiet loner who was often picked on by his classmates. During the lunch break, he notices a timid girl named Hyun-jung being harassed by the popular kids. One of the girls pours Coke onto her food and forces her to eat it. Not only that, they go further by dumping the entire plate on her. Annoyed by the commotion, Pan-soo tells them to keep it down and stop disturbing his peace. To the bullies, it's just Dong-hyun, their favorite chew toy, speaking out of turn. One of them, named Tae-wook, strides over to Pan-soo's table, ready to humiliate him and even slap him. But before he can act, the teachers show up, forcing him to back off for now. After school, Tae-wook and his sidekicks corner Pan-soo, trying to scare him. Thinking Dong-hyun has lost his memory, Tae-wook reminds him of his duties, like buying him burgers. He even gets angry and tries to hit him, but Pan-soo responds by slapping him in the face over and over. Tae-wook's friends step in to help, but they find themselves caught up in Pan-soo's relentless slapfest as well. The next day, the bullies target another student in the bathroom. This time it's Jae-ik, Dong-hyun's friend who had witnessed their embarrassing defeat the day before. They plan to intimidate him into staying quiet. Just as things seem to escalate, Pan-soo steps out of a bathroom stall and intervenes. He defends Jae-ik, snatches Tae-wook's phone, and slaps him again. The bullies are too terrified to resist. While scrolling through the phone, Pan-soo stumbles upon a video from the day of the accident. It reveals that the stuck shoe belonged to Hyun-jung, the girl who was bullied earlier in the school. She and Dong-hyun were friends, and the bullies pressured Dong-hyun into taking her shoe off the pole. Fast forward to the next day, and Tae-wook's fearless leader is giving him a beating because he let Pan-soo get his hands on the phone. Pan-soo arrives and boldly confronts the leader, threatening him with the incriminating video and punctuating his warning with his signature move. He tells him to stay out of his sight, and the bully has no choice but to comply. Elsewhere, Pan-soo's wife is secretly having an affair with his assistant. Suddenly, Mr. Yang shows up and threatens to reveal Soo-yoon's affair to her father unless she helps him take down Pan-soo. Later that night, Pan-soo goes to the hospital and meets Mr. Bong. After landing a painful blow to his lower region, Pan-soo explains everything about the man's past and proves who he really is. Mr. Bong is shocked to realize the boy standing before him is actually his boss. The next day at school, Hyun-jung bumps into him and drops her stuffed toy. He picks it up and follows her to return it, only to find himself face to face with her mother, Oh Mi-soon. To his utter disbelief, Mi-soon turns out to be his first love, the woman he left behind to marry his boss's daughter. When Pan-soo calls her by her first name, Mi-soon is both startled and annoyed. After he runs away, he recalls the fun moments he shared with Mi-soon when they were younger. Suddenly, it dawns on him that Hyun-jung could be his daughter, so he decides to take a DNA test. It's easy to collect his sample, but getting Hyun-jung's makes him seem a bit weird. Anyway, when the results come in, Pan-soo discovers that Hyun-jung is indeed his daughter. The next day, Pan-soo sees a group of girls bullying Hyun-jung at school. They accuse her of stealing their lipstick. Pan-soo steps in and saves his newly discovered daughter, claiming that he took the lipstick. To get rid of the bullies who are harassing his daughter, he immediately gives Mr. Bong a hit list, but Mr. Bong refuses to hurt kids. Following that, he goes to meet Mi-soon to discuss the problem with her. The parents' meeting doesn't go well, and Mi-soon blames Hyun-jung's abandoning father. Without realizing that Pan-soo is sitting right next to her, she curses him for abandoning her and their child. After some uncomfortable conversation, they agree to help Hyun-jung become stronger so she can stand up to the bullies. Elsewhere, Mr. Han is not pleased when his daughter reports that Pan-soo has been misusing Hanho Company funds. Soo-yoon made this false report because Mr. Yang instructed her to, though she doesn't seem too reluctant about going along with it. Meanwhile, Pan-soo makes Hyun-jung come to the gym to learn self-defense from Mr. Bong. Over time, she trains with her father and they start bonding. Before long, Hyun-jung becomes skilled in self-defense and Dong-hyun starts slimming down. His body becomes fitter day by day and his transformation surprises everyone at school. It's another lunch break and Hyun-jung's bullies approach her again. This time she stands up for herself and teaches them a lesson. Her father secretly watches with pride and the other students look on, amazed by her sudden confidence. Later that night, Pan-soo goes to Mi-soon's diner to celebrate. Mi-soon prepares mackerel ramen for him, mentioning offhandedly that it used to be her ex's favorite dish. As Pan-soo takes a bite, he realizes it tastes exactly the way he remembers. While Mi-soon tends to other customers, one of them crosses the line by touching her inappropriately. Pan-soo steps in and the confrontation quickly turns violent. He loses control, unleashing his fury on the man until Mi-soon intervenes, horrified by his over-the-top aggression. She demands to know why he's acting so out of character and why he keeps addressing her by her first name. Pan-soo sits her down and finally reveals the truth about the body-swapping incident. Mi-soon, skeptical, admits that his behavior does remind her of her ex, but she still refuses to believe him. To prove his claim, Pan-soo shares a deeply personal detail that only her former lover could know. Mi-soon is left speechless, but she tells him to leave her and her daughter's lives just as he did years ago. Pan-soo pleads, explaining he never knew she was pregnant, but her pain and resentment remain. She reminds him of their last date when he cruelly told her he was marrying his boss's daughter. The following day, Min-woo, the prince of the school, invites Hyun-jung to his birthday party. She has never been invited to anything in her life, plus she instantly develops a crush on him, so she leaps at the opportunity. After that, Pan-soo messages Mi-soon and begs her to meet him again. When they meet at a cafe, he apologizes to her for his past mistakes. However, Mi-soon bluntly tells him she wants nothing to do with him anymore. He tries to win her over in the most cringe-worthy way possible and kisses her in front of a cafe full of onlookers, but she shoves him away and slaps him hard. The crowd gasps in collective shock because he looks young enough to be Mi-soon's son. While all this is happening, Jae-ik dutifully plays lackey to the school's queen bee bullies and discovers that the party Hyun-jung was invited to is actually a setup to humiliate her. He immediately warns Pan-soo, who decides to intervene. With the mean girls as his unwilling tour guides, he crashes the party just in time. Min-woo is dumping a bowl of beer on Hyun-jung while a pack of guys circles her like vultures. Fueled by rage and possibly adrenaline, he takes down every guy in sight and tosses them one by one into the pool. Hyun-jung also gives Min-woo the kick of a lifetime and sends him flying into the pool to join his soggy friends. The next day, Mr. Bong tells Pan-soo that his wife is planning to ruin his chances of staying on Han-ho's shortlist of heirs by tarnishing his reputation with Mr. Han. To defend himself, Pan-soo writes a letter to his father-in-law, which Mr. Bong dutifully delivers. Later, one of the mean girls from school stops Pan-soo and asks him
지금
out.
나보고 고삐리랑 사귀라는 거냐? 마흔 넘어서 깜빵 갈 일 있냐? 얼른 집에 가서 공부나 해.
Once she leaves, his secret daughter pops up with the exact same request. Feeling awkward and annoyed, Pan-soo quickly shuts her down and walks off, leaving Hyun-jung puzzled. Mi-soon also gets wind of her daughter's crush on her biological father and proceeds to lose her mind. Hyun-jung, however, refuses to forget about Pan-soo because he treats her like the father she never had. Late at night, Mr. Yang breaks into the hospital to murder Pan-soo. Suddenly, Dong-hyun, now in Pan-soo's body, wakes up out of nowhere. Startled, Yang manages to hit his head on the floor and promptly passes out. Confused and frightened, Dong-hyun rushes home to his father. When he bursts in, Jong-gi is shocked to see a grown man crying like a toddler and calling him dad. Moments later, the real Pan-soo arrives and ends up having the experience of staring at himself. He wastes no time laying out the whole body swap mess to them, leaving Jong-gi in a dilemma. Is his son the boy who looks like Dong-hyun, or the middle-aged man who acts like him? Pan-soo then strikes a deal with Dong-hyun, promising to help him date Hyun-jung if he assists with smoothing things over with Mi-soon. They head to Mi-soon's diner, pretending everything's magically back to normal. Dong-hyun awkwardly apologizes to Mi-soon for leaving her in the past. But before they can resolve anything, Yang and his thugs barge in, having tracked Dong-hyun from the hospital. Dong-hyun begins groveling for his life, leaving Yang surprised to see the mighty Pan-soo reduced to a sniveling wreck. But then the young boy steps up to confront them. He sends the other two to another room and begins fighting the thugs. He beats up some of them at first, but they eventually overpower him. That's when Mi-soon reappears, threatening to blow up the whole diner by opening a gas cylinder. Her bold move sends Yang and his crew scrambling for the exit. After that, she starts talking to Pan-soo's body despite knowing full well that he's just a kid. She vents about all the struggles she endured in his absence, and somehow this heartfelt rant ends with a tearful hug. Meanwhile, Mr. Han discovers that his daughter not only lied to frame her husband, but also had an affair on the side. After showing her the letter he received earlier as proof, Mr. Han summons Pan-soo to his immediate presence. Since Pan-soo can't show up in his own body, Dong-hyun steps in, using an invisible earpiece to take instructions. Mr. Han disinherits her daughter on the spot and hands the family fortune over to Pan-soo. Furious, Soo-yoon retaliates by revealing Pan-soo's hidden family to her father, having learned that from Mr. Yang. Dong-hyun struggles to keep up and things get worse when the earpiece malfunctions. Forced to act on his own, Dong-hyun chooses the moral path. He comes clean to Mr. Han about Pan-soo's hidden family and declares that they are his real priority. He also announces that he will step away from Hanho Group to focus on the people he loves. When Dong-hyun returns to Pan-soo, the latter unexpectedly embraces him, thanking him for doing the right thing. Seeing this in her car, the enraged Soo-yoon decides to solve her inheritance issue by attempting vehicular manslaughter. At the last second, Pan-soo pushes Dong-hyun out of the way and takes the hit himself. At the hospital, Pan-soo tells Hyun-jung, whose eyes are wide with shock, that he is her real father. Before he can explain further, he faints and somehow Dong-hyun collapses too. Cut to the next scene and Pan-soo is lying in the operating room. His surgeon is the same woman he met in the diner right before the body swap. Turns out, she cooked up this karmic revenge plot to punish Pan-soo for abandoning Mi-soon. She asks him if he liked her gift before restoring Pan-soo to his original body. Fast forward 6 months and Dong-hyun has fully recovered. Thanks to Pan-soo, he's now popular, respected, and admired. He and Hyun-jung have even started dating. The body swap has also brought major changes to Pan-soo's life. He has cut ties with the Han family and reunited with his own family and his former love. He has given Mi-soon the best shop in his new mall to run her diner. Now everyone, including Dong-hyun's father, works together at the diner. Mr. Bong lends a hand as well, even though he's forced by Mi-soon to wear tank tops to draw in both customers and women.